Mhm. Very good. Okay, let's dive in. Welcome to Career Day. Welcome to TMD's session in Career Day. I'm Carl Asplund. I'm the department chair of the Textiles, Fashion, Merchandising and Design Department. I am currently holed up in my home office, the fabulous beige office, which has been a subject of some conversation earlier this morning, but we won't bother you with that. We have here three fabulous panelists who will get to introduce themselves in a moment, so I will allow them to do that. The way this is going to go today is after they introduce themselves, they're going to tell us each in turn a little bit about how they got to where they are, what they would want someone to have told them when they were in your shoes coming to an event like this some years ago before they graduated. And they want to tell you a little bit about the current state of the world and hiring and jobs and what the profession looks like from where they're sitting in this strange time that we're living through. Then what we'll do is we will pull from the chat window any questions that you may have had while you're listening to them, or any questions you may have already. So please enter those in the chat window and we'll start pulling from that toward the end of the session, looking for maybe 10-15 minutes of question and answer at the end. So let me kind of back off, and Lisa, would you please introduce yourself, and then we'll go to our panelists.
Absolutely. Hello, everybody. My name is Lisa Lancelotta. I'm the coordinator of the MBA program at URI, and today I'm the technology assistant. So if anyone has any problems, just please feel free to, you can either message me privately, and we'll just get started going.
Okay, great. Thank you, Lisa. So let's go to our panelists each in turn. And I would like the panelists, please, to just tell us a little bit about yourself, name, rank, and serial number, when you graduated, where you are right now, where you're beaming in from, what you're actually working on at the moment, and tell us one thing that would surprise us about you. So Nina, why don't we start with you?
Hey, good morning, everyone. I'm so excited to be here. So I just wanted to thank everyone for having me, and Carl and Lisa for organizing this. So my name is Nina Perry, as you can see on my Zoom. No confusion there. I graduated from URI, the TMD program, in 2015. I'm currently located in Providence, Rhode Island. But I actually work in Hingham, Mass, which is about 30 to 40 minutes south of Boston. And I work for Talbot's, the women's clothing company. And I've actually been there for the last 5.5 years. So if you do the math, since graduation, it's very funny. Everyone always jokes about it. I graduated on a Sunday and I started on the Monday. So I've been there literally since graduation. Let's see, anything fun or surprising? Oh, actually, let me tell you, so at Talbot's, I am a sourcing manager. So I do production, managing costing. I'm kind of like the liaison between the design team and the buying team. So we kind of call ourselves the police because we kind of like manage everyone. I started as an assistant, and over the last 5.5 years, I've worked my way up from an associate to a manager. And actually in the moment right now, I'm working on, which I'm so sorry I can't say what it is, but I'm working on a special project with Talbot's. It actually launches next Thursday, 10/22. So if everyone can wait till then and check online, you'll see what it is, but it's very exciting and I wish I could tell you more. I just can't right now. What was the last one? Oh, something fun about me. This has nothing to do with the industry, but I play the cello and I actually double majored at URI with music. So yeah.
That's great. Who knew Talbot's had classified projects? That's
right. I know.
Well, love that. Okay, thank you, Nina. Joe, why don't you dive in?
Good morning, everybody. Thank you all for having me. It's great to I don't know if I could say come back to URI to do something like this, but yeah, here we are. My name is Joe Rotundo. I am currently in Brooklyn, New York. I am the founder of Rocky Clark Clothing. I founded it in 2015 while I was at URI. I graduated from the TMD program in 2016 with a focus in apparel design. I participated in the spring fashion show where I proudly won most marketable. I'm currently working on a spring 21 collection. It'll be our most extensive collection to date for Rocky Clark. All made and designed in Brooklyn and New York City's Garment District. It's pretty fun to work, you know, in such a historic center. Something fun and interesting about me is I picked up a couple hobbies in quarantine. I'm teaching myself how to skateboard. I've become an avid golfer. And lastly, I collect baseball cards and vintage war memorabilia. And that's a little bit about me.
How do you have time for those hobbies is what I would like to know. I would love to have hobbies. How do you do
I'll
it?
be honest with you, I think quarantine was the best thing that happened to my work career. Just having time for myself and making my own schedule. So it's been pretty nice.
All right. Well, more power to you. Thank you. Andrew, let's hear from you.
All right. Good morning, everybody. I too share Joe's sentiments about it's nice to be back at URI. I haven't been involved in school for about maybe six or 7 years, but I'm really happy to be back involved again. My name is Andrew Weisbrot. I'm the vice president of a brand called Zanella. We're a luxury apparel company. Pretty much founded in Venice, Italy. We still have an office there. And we make our product in Bari, which is the southeast of Italy. Really beautiful part of the country. We are located in our world corporate office is in Rockefeller Center, New York. I'm currently working from my home office part-time in Colts Neck, New Jersey, for all the Jersey people on the call, which I'm sure there's a few. I have been back to New York every week since right after July 4th, and we're kind of in a hybrid mode, which is kind of nice. I graduated from URI in 1995, so it's been quite a while. And something unique about me, I guess, I am an avid offshore fisherman. So it's kind of I like Joe. I've been very happy sometimes with quarantine because I've been spending a lot of time 100 miles off the shore of New Jersey, catching a ton of tuna this year, eating really well. And it's kind of funny because a lot of people in our industry laugh at me. I have two separate lives, one a luxury apparel life and one a dirty, bloody fisherman catching tuna all the time. They normally don't go hand in hand, but that's me.
That's brilliant. 100 miles offshore is a good place to be these days, isn't it?
It really is. Most people don't understand that, but it really is.
No, I can relate. I can relate. If I can mention one thing about me, and then Lisa, we're going to come to you for that. I kayak, and so I maybe go a little bit offshore, and offshore is great. I love offshore.
It's the ultimate quarantine.
It is the ultimate quarantine and the solitude. Hey. Nothing. I'm such a strange blend of introversion and extroversion that the introvert takes over when I'm in the kayak. It's great. Lisa, what's surprising about you? What do we learn about you?
Not too much. I have two teenage girls, so quarantine isn't necessarily fun for me. And in my spare time, I actually like to play softball. So, which is something we can't do right now either. So. It hasn't been a fun summer for me.
All right. Well, maybe Joe can teach you skateboarding. See how that goes. Okay, great. So let's move on to the core of our event today, which is to learn from our fabulous panelists. what it's like out there and what can you do. And so going round again, I have 3 basic questions that I'm going to ask each of our panelists in turn. So we'll get input from you 3 on each of these questions to the next one. And so the first question I would like each of you to tell us in a couple of minutes each, just how did you get there? And each of you sort of implied a few things just in your introduction, but for our audience today, it's really important to understand the mechanics of this. How do you do it? How does this dot connect to that dot? And Nina, how did you get there?
So I like to say that where I am today right now, and I know that I'm only 5.5 years into, my career, and I hope that there's so much more still. But I kind of give it a lot, kind of half to luck and half to hard work, because I don't want to give it all to kind of like good timing, but I also, I feel like I've been given certain opportunities that I was lucky to be given over the last 5 years. So to kind of back up, like I said, I started the day after graduation. I was very I'm super type A person. I couldn't graduate without having a job, which kind of looking back now, it's not a big deal, and do not freak out about that. From experience, that was something I shouldn't have been stressing about. And so anyways, I started the day after graduation. I was a sourcing assistant in Talbot's outlet division. And like I said, a really great opportunity, and lucky that my manager at the time went out on maternity leave 3 months into my first job. So I kind of was given an opportunity either to sink or swim. And like I said, I think I was really lucky to be given that opportunity, but at the same time, I took that opportunity and really put in a lot of hard work to kind of show, learn everything I could and show that I was hardworking and willing to do the extra work. And within a year after starting, I was promoted to associate sourcing manager of sweaters for the core Talbot's team. Which was amazing because I learned a lot about cashmere and more expensive yarns, where I came from outlet to start. So I feel like I kind of got, my first year out, the outlet industry, which is very cost driven. And then within the next year, when I was promoted to associate, I got to learn a little bit more about, finer yarns and more product driven side of the industry. And then I was super lucky again that the same manager from my first go around had another kid. So they asked me to cover for her once again. And she at the time was managing all tops and all knits for outlets. So then I got to kind of jump in her shoes and manage way more than I was used to. And again, I took that as this is an opportunity to really show I can do this, and I want to be promoted again to have my own product category, because I think sometimes within, I don't know, I talk to other people who are in different industries who are oh, you're a manager when you manage people. But I think within the clothing industry, it's you manage clothing. So you get your own category, like sweaters or knit tees or something like that, where it's similar to if you want to go into buying, you start as an assistant buyer, but ultimately you want to be a buyer of your own category and manage that. So again, luckily after she came back from maternity leave, I was promoted again. And then recently Talbot's, like I said, is kind of launching a new startup type business. So I was lucky to be able to work on that during the time being. So again, I just think that ultimately, like I said, I feel like a lot of luck, but I also don't want to discredit that. I feel like I worked really hard, and I really put all of my time and effort into Talbot's. And I think also within the industry, a lot of people, especially my age, jump around a lot. And nothing's wrong with that. It's very much in order to get promoted. And, a lot of times that's how you get promoted. But I also think if you're in a company and you really like your managers and you like the people that work there, to really build strong relationships and to kind of be eager and willing to go that extra step is only going to show them that you're loyal to the company. And I almost think like some people, I almost was promoted faster for that than kind of like jumping around and being more, having more longevity at one company. So that's a little bit about how I got to where I am today. The next question is, are we going to the next question?
Well,
No.
I'm gonna have Joe and Andrew answer the same question before we go to the second one. But while I have the floor, let me remind our audience to please, if any questions come to mind while you're listening to our speakers, please enter those in the chat window, because we're gonna come back to that at around 9:15 and pull from the chat window as for further discussion. So please throw things into that chat. Small, large, doesn't have to be profound, can be very precise, can be very wide. Let's try and learn as much as we can from our guests today. And again, speaking of the chat window, there is a form, a link there, a Google form for you to enter your name and email address so that you can get Joe, Andrew's, and Nina's contact information after the event. So make sure your name and email are in there, so because we're going to blitz out their contact information. Okay, there's some late arrivals that may not have known that. Okay, Joe, tell us, how'd you get there? How did you get where you are?
Yeah, so everybody's path is, unique and different, and a lot like Nina said, opportunity comes about and you see an opening and you take it. But my path started at URI. I was a kinesiology major for the first year and a half. And then I switched, I loved sports, I loved exercise science and stuff like that, so it was nice to learn about it. But as I was going on my college career, I was always into clothing, and I was like, it'd be really cool to design sports uniforms. And I sort of became obsessed with that idea. And I was asking people, like, how can I do this within kinesiology, and it just didn't work. And one of the professors said, hey, you should go speak to Martin Bide. So that next morning I woke up and I went to speak to Martin Bide, and I literally switched my major on the spot. So that really catapulted me into a different direction, which obviously worked out for the best. That was middle of sophomore year. That's when I really started my TMD path with a focus on apparel design. And from there, I took classes. I interned at Mark Allen Fine Clothiers in Providence, Rhode Island. And there I really had hands-on experience with really the nicest clothing you can possibly get, from fabrics from Loro Piana from Italy to, they custom made suit. They had custom made suits, and they had ready to wear. So I was really hands-on, and I saw the inner workings of a fine garment, which I found the most value in. And then from there, I went to study abroad in Florence, Italy, where I studied men's tailoring. There I learned so much about what goes into the engineering of a garment. I not only learned about clothing, but I also learned about Italian culture, and their fashion is taken so seriously. Everybody really dresses their best to just step out and go to the grocery store. Came back to America, and I had a mission to really start my career path, and that's when I founded Rocky Clark. In college, it was more of like a passion project and a bit of a hobby. It was really a research project for me to study sustainability and what it takes to create clothing in America. So there I just did a ton of research on my own, just about this concept of sustainability. Now, this was back in 2015, so it was beginning to be talked about within the industry, but it wasn't really taken seriously by many brands. So I was like, this is sort of weird that nobody is, you know, diving into this. So I saw, I don't know if it's the business man in me, but I saw an area of opportunity, and I started this company, and just like with just t-shirts and whatnot. And then after school, I got an internship in New York City, where I really owned their denim line. I worked with the manufacturer right in New York, who I still use today. So there, I gained a valuable connection, and he makes all my denim goods now. So again, you see these areas of opportunity. You see these connections come into your life, and at the time you don't know what they're for, but you know, looking back, it all comes together. And again, just find those places where you could gain experience, and then you see it come together.
Thanks, Joe. And it's interesting that the both of you mentioned that combination of good fortune and hard work and being ready for opportunities. It's a really important thing to keep in mind, that
right place, right time.
Right place, right time. Yeah.
And what's the hurry up slowly, or
hurry up and wait?
Hurry up and wait. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So Andrew, what is your story?
What is my story? I was still trying to figure that out. Like I said, I graduated in 1995. I was, much like some other comments before, I was stressed about getting a job, and I think I started day one as well. Right after graduation, maybe a week after graduation, I started. I was interviewing at a corporation called GFT. They were a powerhouse in the apparel industry. They had 10 different brands: Valentino, Giorgio Armani, Calvin Klein, and a company, Joseph Abboud, which I wound up, I was interviewing at Valentino for months, and the guy was dragging his feet who was interviewing me, and I wound up actually accepting a job at Joseph Abboud as a merchandising assistant to Joe himself. For those who know Joe, Joe's from Boston. He sold his brand and has been in Men's Warehouse for a while, but I spent 10 years at Joseph Abboud. The first year and a half was a merchandising assistant, like helping Joe create the line. You know, I was a 23-year-old that really had no experience doing that at all. But after doing that for a year and a half, I really wanted to move into sales, because that's where my skill set, my personality, strength is. And I stayed there for 10 years, and it was probably the best time that I've had in my career. My first job at that company, the friendships, just how business was back then, it's changed pretty dramatically. I've kind of really only worked for probably about 4 major companies, major brands. Everything from Joe Abboud, which was an industry leader in tailored clothing and dress furnishings, to Hugo Boss, which and Joseph Abboud was more of kind of a traditional brand. Spending a long time at Hugo Boss, I spent about 5 years at Hugo Boss, running massive sized businesses in a very fashion forward, fast paced environment. I've spent probably combined, I served 2 roles at Brioni, which was the most expensive luxury brand in the world, which was, I saw a much different side of our industry there, dealing with, you know, an uber luxury customer. And again, most of this time has all been on wholesale sales and merchandising, kind of sales and merchandising in a way have combined into one role these days. And I actually exited the wholesale world for 5 years to become a merchant and a buyer, as our industry has been steaming towards a retail mindset, even from a wholesale perspective. I actually did not have any retail experience in my career, so I joined a really significant store as the head merchant and spent there for 5 years, actually in Philadelphia, commuting from New Jersey. And then I came back to run this business, Zanella, back in September, in a multi-capacity way, running wholesale sales, marketing, merchandising. My merchandising past life has enabled me to create lines now, which we don't really have a design team so much. We have a creative team in Italy that does more of pattern making. For the United States and the Americas, I put the collection together, and it's kind of a 360-degree role. I get to shop the fabric markets, and then kind of with my team who reports to me, who sells our product, we get to actually sell it. So we kind of see a whole life cycle now in the role I'm in. I've really kind of spent most of my career in big brands. This is that have collections. This is actually my first stint at a very single product category, and we really make men's trousers. We do some other things in sportswear, but where our focus is really kind of men's pants. It's not the most, I guess, sexiest product category at the moment. We're really trying to put a lot of technology in our product, and thankfully that's proved through this really random time that we're in to be a home run. So I think that's kind of where I've been very lucky through my career. I know we've talked about a little bit about staying in one place, but I find that my first job, being there for 10 years, allowed me to meet a lot of different people and do a lot of different things that, I got to see many things, and it's helped me throughout my career in being multifaceted. And I can talk a lot of different languages. This industry has changed dramatically, which we'll talk about in a minute, but has afforded me a tremendous amount of friendships and traveling the world. To Germany, Hugo Boss, to Italy a lot, the Far East. It's been a great ride so far. So.
Okay, well, thank you, Andrew. It's fascinating stuff. I mean, it really is. It's just. I mean, listen to this. We have these three panelists, and already the entire world is there. It's amazing, isn't it? And you could. I mean, we could have each one. We could have Joe, we could have Andrew, we could have Nina for a whole day, I think, and just sort of go through it. It's marvelous. And we're just one question in. You know, I want to go back to school now listening to the three of them. It's great.
Don't tell me it was a good time.
It would be a good time when I should go back and get some tailoring chops. I should go and intern at Mark Allen, shouldn't I, Joe? We should just do that. But okay, second round. So Nina, we'll start again with you. And now in the second round, again, sadly, briefly, only in a couple of minutes, switch places with our audience and tell them something you wish somebody had told you in similar circumstances when you were in their place.
So if I were backtrack, sorry, 5.5 years ago, and if I was in your place, I wish someone told me to relax and maybe, take a month off between graduation and starting a job. It's okay. Like you can work for the rest of your life. Don't stress about it. I think that I personally put so much pressure, and I'm sure a lot of you do, about like getting the right internship and getting a job like before I graduated. Like I think I had my Talbot's job in like beginning of April. I hadn't even like passed my finals yet. So I just think that I wish someone told me to relax, and it's okay to like, if I wanted to go travel in between graduation. I know like the world right now, that's probably not something that's going to be accessible to you, but just don't stress out about it too much, because I feel like a lot of things, everything works out the way it's supposed to be. And if you're like going to put the effort in the long run, like you're going to be okay.
So Nina, if you don't mind me going just a little bit deeper on that.
Yeah.
If you had, as you say, relaxed, which I see contains several layers, but if you had relaxed, how would you be better now?
I think now burnout's a real thing. And I think that I'm really lucky that I've had really good managers who have forced me to take vacations and stuff. But I think that if I learned how to relax back then, taking time for myself now and knowing that life isn't just all about work, would have been easier to swallow at this point.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. Thank you. Thank you. So Joe, you do the switch. Now you go back and do you time travel with us now?
Yeah. Before I answer this question, I want to ask everybody here to take a second and ask yourself the question, what do you want to do? And either write it down real quick or just think about it like, what in a perfect world, what do you want to accomplish, achieve? What do you want to do with your life? I think quarantine and 2020 has taught me personally, life isn't all about work. You know, a lot like Nina said, find something that really makes you happy, find something that, you know, I guess pays the bills, but at the end of the day, like, what do you truly want to do and how can you make it happen? And what's stopping you from doing it? You know, so if I were to go back, you know, I think I asked myself that question, but I'm a very self-motivated person. I know not everybody's like that, and sometimes people need a little kick in the butt to get where they're going. So if I could be that for you, what's stopping you from truly doing what's like burning in your heart? And how can you make that happen? And then just like reverse engineer it, find those opportunities, seek out help, ask questions. Like when you're in class, ask questions. Carl, you you know this. I was a loudmouth in class. I asked questions because I was truly interested and because I wanted to absorb everything I possibly could during my time at URI. So I urge you to you know, do the same. Just really dig deep and just go for it. And nothing should stop you. Nothing will stop you. And again, to echo Nina, you have your whole life in front of you. I know it doesn't seem like that. I know you probably think you need to get a job and start contributing to your 401k or whatever, but in reality, that's not true. We're really young. We have our whole life ahead of us. I'm super optimistic about the future, and there's great opportunity out there. You just got to go seek it and not be afraid. And that's what I got to say about that.
Oh, that's plenty to think about. Thank you, Joe. And yes, and I will underline Joe's comment there. He was a student who didn't quit. He was in my office with you know, it was, I don't know, 5 times a day, but it was great. It was really great. Okay, Andrew, now you time travel. You time travel back to 1995.
Oh boy. I don't even remember last week, Carl. I can't think about 95. You know, I think the one maybe piece of advice I would actually just throw out there, and I think we touched on it. I know I did, just about my first 10 years at my first job. You know, I think that's kind of not really a reality so much anymore. You know, longevity like that, especially first job out of school. But I would have to say the one thing that, you know, prior to the pandemic that I know myself and a lot of my fellow colleagues in our industry running big brands is that the patient level of a new employee, of a graduating senior into the workforce is one of lack of patience. And you know, I'm trying to politically say it the right way, but I think one of the things that has hurt our industry is that a lot of young people that are coming into it in a corporate level, they don't have the patience, and I think Nina was talking to this, to kind of pay their dues and kind of learn the skill set and take their time to learn, and because it will just make you stronger the further you go in your career. You know, I've had a lot of people work for me over the years, a tremendous amount of young people. I've hired some people from URI. Very proud of that. Some of those people, not one from URI, but some of those people have been really strong, but they don't have patience and want to kind of get promoted after 6 months, you know, job hop for a few extra $1,000. And I think that I can appreciate what Nina was talking about, because I was like her in my first role. She's at Talbot for 5 years. You know, having patience, listening to people around her, finding good managers, finding a good manager and people to work with these days far outweighs what your actual paycheck is. And your paycheck will come, your payday will come, your title will come if you choose to go into a corporate world. But I think a mini pandemic in our business right now is there's a lot of young people with a tremendous amount of talent, but they're too quick to move after such a short amount of time. So I saw this in a really big way at Hugo Boss, because we employed a tremendous amount of young people at the company. But I would tell you to just, wherever you are lucky enough to find a job as you enter the workplace, I would tell you to relax a little bit, to dig your heels in, to find mentors, to find good people to surround yourself by. And when you're lucky enough to find a good environment, you have to figure out how to stay in that environment and know that, you know, a title, a business card, or a paycheck will come. And the more you can kind of learn and really soak in and listen and how to talk to a customer or how to do your job really well, I would tell you that that's probably the most important thing for me to tell you guys who are possibly graduating this year or next year, that you really kind of have to have that skill set in your back pocket.
That's great.
Hope
Thank
that
you,
makes
Andrew.
sense.
Thank you. Oh gosh, it does. And if I can add the briefest footnote to that, that's a big realization for me, because when I'm advising students that are going on to graduate school, I tell them not to pick the school, pick the professor.
Yeah.
And I've never actually put that in the context of the business world. Don't pick the workplace, pick the manager, pick the coworkers.
Yeah, everywhere, a lot of places that I've gone, Paul, and this is not just an Andrew Weisbrot thing, but you know, a lot of my friends have the same philosophy. You're taking teams of people with you, so
Yeah.
you know, that whole, you know, it's not what you know, it's who you know. To me, it's not. I mean, it is what you know, but you know, finding the right people, surrounding yourself. You know, I'm sure Nina's surrounding herself by people in her corporate life that. You know, whether they leave to go somewhere and they take Nina, or Nina takes someone now that she got promoted.
Right.
It's finding those people to surround yourself by, because they will carry you and kick open the doors into a huge network of businesses down the road.
Wow. Yeah, excellent. And thank you all. Excellent insights, all really, really wonderful. So the final question round, and we've already heard this alluded to, but let's get a little bit more clarity, maybe an example, a brief vignette of some kind. The current situation, right? The COVID year. How's that affecting the business as you see it? Nina, why don't you tell us what's happening on your side?
Well, I'm sure for everyone else too. It's been a roller coaster.
Roller coaster.
So I would say I started working from home like March 13th, around there. That was, I think actually March 13th. March 13th was the last day in the office, because I remember it was Friday the 13th. And So the following week we started working from home, I think for like 2 weeks. And then basically, I think like 80 to 90% of our office, we have our Hingham office, creatives in New York, so our New York office, our Lakeville is in Lakeville, Mass, our distribution center. I would say about 80% in each office was furloughed, including me. So I was just kind of like, especially like, as you can tell probably from this conversation, I'm the type of person who doesn't do well with time off. So I was like, oh my gosh, what do I do? And plus I've never been, you know, it was my first job. I've never, like a lot of people, this was kind of something that we've never really encountered before. I will say though, like with business, you always remember, like if you're going into corporate and businesses, that layoffs are not like rare either. So I know a lot of people who I work with that have been through like a couple rounds of layoffs. Like I think that's important to like know going in that it's a business, and business can be good and business can be bad, and you can work for a company and business can be bad and you can be laid off, and that doesn't have anything to do with you. And obviously COVID was nothing to do with like any business. Everyone was struggling from the same thing. So anyways, I was furloughed, I think for 2 months. And then I was brought back at like, I think 80% of my pay. And I was really, really lucky that they were doing this new project, because I was brought back to work on this project, because if not, our whole outlet division got laid off, ended up getting laid off. A majority, we also had a good amount of layoffs, and majority came back after furlough, I think Labor Day. But it was quite like March to Labor Day, there were a lot of people on furlough. And I think this was, you know, the first time we've ever kind of dealt with something like that. We're still pretty much work from home right now, but we're not really hiring. I go into the office like 2 to 3 times a week, but it's like very rare. So yeah, and I think that this is kind of like, it's very new territory for a lot of businesses. Like I said, layoffs are not like bad business. That's not anything new, but on this level and scale, it's just crazy. So I think like something I would say to take away from this is don't like stress, like if you like, especially with the way the industry is, like there's not a lot of internships. There's not a lot of people hiring right now. There's so many people that were laid off that are also looking for jobs that you're going to be competing against. So I would say don't stress too much about it. Like I know how tough that must be, but also try to get creative. Like when I'm looking for someone to hire, any type of experience is good experience. And sometimes like the less practical experience is something like personally I like. I also think I would so much rather take the person who has less experience but has like that eagerness in their eyes, and you really can tell is going to be a hard worker, over someone who's way more experienced, who've had way more internships. So yeah, that's really the best advice I can give you for this situation.
That's very good to hear. Thank you, Nina. Joe, what's your perspective?
Yeah, I just want to thank Andrew for your last point. Like, you know, as someone who is also just sort of starting out in their career, it's honestly great advice. So I hope you all take that in and absorb that. From an industry standpoint, you know, Rocky Clark is really a purpose-driven brand. We're a smaller brand, and we have, you know, deep intrinsic values that we really stick to, because we really want to drive change in the fashion industry, being sustainability and making in America. So I see a huge area of opportunity for brands like that, those purpose-driven brands. You know, I feel like COVID has really brought a lot of, you know, problems to the surface, but they're all, in my opinion, curable. And I think consumers will really gravitate towards brands and businesses to make those purchasing decisions that will have a positive impact on communities. So I really see the industry sort of move to that direction, maybe smaller brands within communities that really rally support behind it. And I really think that we're going to see a lot of subcultures within fashion come up. Not like the 50s and the 60s and the 70s where you just had one trend. I think we're going to see a lot of micro trends, a lot of micro brands that have a cult-like following that drive home this feeling of community and feeling of purpose. So that's where I see the industry headed.
Okay.
And that ties in climate change and all of these
Yes,
areas of.
we could probably have a whole session on the sustainability questions.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think COVID is just sort of directly tied with that.
Mhm.
Right now, we actually have an intern from URI. She's remote. She helps us with a lot of marketing, social media. She does some design work. So again, I think not just the fashion industry, but jobs as a whole, we're based in New York, but we have an intern working in Rhode Island. I really think that with working from home will create opportunities elsewhere for companies. New York is the hub of brands and business, not only in fashion, but a whole bunch of industries merging as one. And that goes for a ton of cities. And I think it'll really allow brands to open up the talent pool to find talent elsewhere. That won't be like, you don't have to live in New York to get a New York job. You could live really anywhere. And that we could talk about cost of living and stuff like that. So I think the talent pool really opened up for brands, which is great opportunity for a whole bunch of people. You don't have to uproot your life to go find a job. And that ties in like work-life balance. So I think a lot of good will come out of this.
Good. Andrew, from where you're sitting.
Sure. Well, the long and the short of it is our industry right now is a mess. I don't want to sugarcoat it or put it any other way, but it is a very, very difficult business model right now. There's a tremendous amount of change going on. The whole landscape is kind of morphing into something completely different than where it was, I guess, March 1st. I can tell you that from my perspective, from the luxury level, dealing, and I trade with Neiman Marcus and Nordstrom and Bloomingdale's. We have over 200 mom and pop stores around the country. No one is shopping now. No one's going anywhere. No one's going to an office. So if they're not going to an office, they're not getting dressed. No one is traveling. There's no events. There's no weddings. There's no celebrations. There's no fundraisers. So right now, the retail landscape has changed dramatically. There is a tremendous amount of loss of jobs at the retail level. And as such, that has kind of like funneled into the wholesale world, where the wholesale model is not as big. I mean, you look at Ralph Lauren and what has happened with that organization, and big organizations, big corporations, they have gotten demolished with job loss. I had to furlough my team. Thankfully, I brought most of them back, but there were some that I was not able to bring back because the business has changed so much. So it's not, I don't want it to be doom and gloom, but it's the harsh reality of what has happened. Right now, I feel like the apparel industry, much like restaurants, bars, I feel like I guess the travel industry, we have gotten rocked. It will come back. It is slowly coming back. I look at, I'm usually in Italy 10 times a year. I should have been there. It's weird for me not to be able to travel there. I thought I was going to be able to get there in a couple of months, but it's getting locked down again. I mean, these are real concerns on the future. I want to be able to get some interns in the office, but we're working this hybrid kind of random thing. We just got through selling our spring season. Didn't have an intern. We didn't even have one market appointment in New York. Everything is virtual Zoom, and I have some people that are on the road selling for me, and they're going to some stores where the stores will allow them actually in the store. But it's kind of very random to have this many customers from around the world, and you're working them through a Zoom appointment. And our whole life revolves around touching and feeling and diving in fabric and loving product, and it's very, very hard to actually convey that through a computer screen. So for me, I haven't slept much since March. I'm trying to spend more time offshore fishing so I can clear my head a little bit. But the industry is not easy. I agree with Joe. There is a lot of opportunity. The landscape is changing quickly, but right now there's not a lot of people going to a retail store anywhere in this country and around the world for that matter, and spending money. And when they don't spend money, then wholesale businesses like myself kind of really scramble and to try to understand, what makes sense for us staffing wise, whole host of things. But if you love the business and you want to jump in the industry, despite the turmoil that we're in right now, there's still a tremendous amount of opportunity. I would tell you that, you just got to be prepared for a lot of fire right now upon graduation.
Thank you, Andrew. And I would underscore what all three of our panelists have said, that it's a crazy time, but this is not an industry that's going away.
No.
But the key here is, and a sub theme that's developing here today is take your time, develop the skills, make yourself valuable. Make yourself valuable, and then you will find a place to be. That's a very important thing. Slow down, develop that skill. What is that skill? Okay. So thank you, panelists. That was really incredibly enlightening, and I'm so pleased with the very personal approach all three of you took. That's a valuable lesson for our students. We have some questions in our chat window. We have less time than we thought, but we do have a little bit of time. I have been writing down my questions, and I have several pages of those, so we won't get to most of them. But one question that came up several times in the chat window was about internships, and you've mentioned those briefly. But the value of an internship, what internships did you do, if you did any, and what did you get from them? Nina?
I had my first internship summer after, I think, freshman year. And majority of my internships were just at local boutiques and stores. I didn't have any corporate internships. I applied and never got any. So majority were local. If there was like a local boutique, I just kind of popped in and said, hey, do you need some help? Like, willing to work for free. And actually my first one, she owned a boutique in Providence that's not here anymore, but she had a connection to a showroom in New York that I ended up interning for a couple summers as well. So, but nothing was specifically for what I'm doing now, very different, but kind of like I said before, I think experience is experience, and you're going to learn something no matter what. And I think it's going to make you just more marketable to whatever employer like in the future. So.
Joe, remind me, Joe, did I manage your internship, or was that somebody else, or were you just in my office all the time?
Probably a combination of both.
Okay.
All 7 of those things you mentioned.
All right. Tell us about your internship and what you brought out of it.
I think learning what you don't want to do is just as valuable as learning as what you do want to do. And with that being said, trying out those different things is fantastic. So I interned at Mark Allen Fine Clothiers in Providence. It was a little boutique. I interned at a startup called Hemp Blue. They were making hemp denim jeans, and it was a social media internship. And then I interned at a small company, Linder, New York, which is in New York. My advice would be, I found the most value at a smaller company because I was super hands-on and I was really part of the overall process, which I found super valuable. But most internships won't come from applying to a position, in my opinion, because you're just another resume sometimes. I think the way to get an internship is find, if you're interested, find a small brand and just reach out to them. Or what Nina said, pop in a store and say, hey, like, I'm willing to work for free. Like, you need to be willing to work for free, because you're not working for free. You're getting paid in education and experience. And that's the most valuable thing as a student and a young professional. So it's taking that leap to ask somebody, hey, do you need help? Like, I'm willing to help and learn from you. And that goes a long way.
Thanks, Joe. Andrew, perspective on internships, your own or ones
I
you're,
think
ones
they're
you're
yeah, I think they're incredibly valuable. I mean, I had a few, you know, before I jumped in the workplace. I mean, I'm hiring someone now, an assistant now, and I'm looking at resumes, and you know, there's so many people applying that for me, if I don't see, you know, a decent amount of internships on there, or one or two quality ones, I'm going over the resume and not even looking at it, because for me, it's not even about so much what you're learning, or if you kind of fit into the mold of what I'm looking for in a candidate. It's more kind of getting experience in a workplace environment. And certainly, I mean, I value internships a tremendous amount. I've tried over the years to have a lot of them. Actually, I had a great one from University of Delaware back in January. That seems like, you know, 10 years ago now. But for me, it's an easy way to find talent. I love to find someone, and that's how a few people that I've hired over the years from URI, they started as interns, and they were awesome, and you just kind of like carry them with you. So I would tell you that you know, if you want to jump into the apparel world, whether it's working in a retail store or a wholesale environment, legally now you know, working for a corporation as an intern, you have to get paid. So I never got paid, but the legality of that has changed. So most times you will get paid, at least from the corporate, in the corporate world, you will, but they are super important.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you. And sadly, it's 9:30, and the higher powers, Lisa, is wanting us to wrap up.